Just a few weeks ago, German investigative journalist Till Eckert, here in the United States on a special fellowship exchange, witnessed firsthand the violence at the hands of the Trump administration's draconian immigration crackdown. He was at that New York immigration courthouse in the hallway with a young Ecuadorian woman who was violently assaulted and shoved to the ground by an ICE agent. He captured it on video, and he wrote about it for ProPublica. Till Eckert and I had the chance to sit down to talk about his observations as somebody who lives in Germany and is witnessing what is happening in the United States. He says he's alarmed, and I don't blame him. We talk about what happened to that woman, Monica, that day, and why it's so important to be focusing on how this is going on and why this is happening. And joining me now from Berlin, we are so grateful for his time, is investigative journalist Till Eckert. Till, it's so nice to see you. How are you doing?
Doing good. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Till. So thanks again. Like I noted, you are in Berlin. You came to the United States, spent a few months here as a part of your investigative journalism. Get the viewers kind of caught up quickly on what was the purpose for you coming to the U.S.?
Sure. I was part of a fellowship program. It was like more an exchange program between journalists. It's an international transatlantic exchange program where 10 German journalists would get sent to the US and 10 US journalists would get sent to Germany. It's called the Arthur F. Burns Fellowship. And I had the pleasure to be hosted by ProPublica.
Which is, by the way, for everybody who tunes into my channel, Till, I am a huge fan of ProPublica. I am always saying to people to not only subscribe, but to follow, because their pieces are truly tip of spear when it comes to investigative journalism. So that was part of the reason why I noted your article from September 25th. Before I get into that, though, I wanted to ask, kind of what were your expectations before you came to the U.S., seeing how you are in journalism, you are totally up to speed on kind of global politics and everything that's going on. What were your expectations as to what you thought it was going to be like when you came here?
Well, I've been kind of alarmed, to be frankly honest with you, because of the pictures I have seen, like of masked agents sweeping people off the streets. So I was just wondering, and I was curious to see it with my own eyes and witnessing what was going on here in the States.
And that was a huge part of that piece you did for ProPublica. You spent time reporting on the immigrant neighborhoods, and you went to emergency rooms, churches, ICE field offices, and then you spent 2 weeks every day going to the federal immigration courthouse in Manhattan. And on that morning, this is something that you caught yourself on video. We're going to play it right now, and it's 2 clips back to back we're going to play. So let's take a watch and a listen.
Oh, come on, man. Come on.
Yo tengo lo que allá también nos pegaron. Yo no pensé venir acá a Estados Unidos y también que me pase lo mismo.
Till, that was really hard to watch. That woman just shoved to the ground, slamming her head on the floor. Her name is Monica Moreta Galarza. And for those of us that don't speak Spanish and didn't understand, in that second video, she was explaining that she had come to the United States from Ecuador and that people were routinely beat in her home country of Ecuador, and she didn't think that she'd come to the US and the same thing would happen to her. Till we've seen these videos now, talk about what it was like to witness it firsthand and kind of what happened that day.
Yeah. So that morning, it must have been like 10 a.m. I was walking into the building and then driving up with the elevator to floor 12 with another photographer, another journalist colleague. And we've been hearing, as soon as we were walking out of the elevator, we were hearing those distressed, like just screams of Monica around the corner. So we were like walking out of the elevator around the corner and have seen what we just saw in the video, right before like the stairwell. Well, usually like ICE agents would bring immigrants down to another floor. And apparently this had just happened to Monica's husband. And this was why Monica was very upset. And we can also see in this video, her children were there. I would see and hear the children screaming, Monica screaming, of course, being upset, like speaking Spanish to the ICE agent, asking him whether she's allowed to come in with him. She's afraid that he will get hurt. And that was, it was quite a shocking thing to see. It was an escalation for sure. I could feel the tension in this hallways rising like the days before. Every time when an arrest happens short before, you can tell that ICE agents are getting nervous, like they're tipping from one foot to the other. Like you could just feel that there is tensions rising, and so that was like a culmination and escalation for sure.
Well, there was one ICE agent in particular, and it definitely was a big scuffle, right? But there was that one man in particular. He's been identified by a first name of Vincent. We don't know his full name, but he's the one who's shoving her to the ground. And he's also the one who was mocking her. We could hear him on the video saying adios, adios to her, maybe even to her husband. You know, Till, you mentioned her children were there. They were so little and they were witnessing all of this, not only their father getting arrested, but now their mother being slammed to the ground.
That's correct. Like, first correction, beforehand, little correction.
Sure.
Like, the agent's name, as we heard it, is Victor. Although we cannot be
Okay.
sure if this is his real name.
Okay.
But yeah, so children were there. They were witnessing their father taken away by masked men. Well, those are children. They don't know what is happening. They're just seeing like masked men taking their father away. And then, of course, Victor, as you just said, yelling at Monica, adios, adios. And as I'm hearing in the video and as I understood, like one time he also said "calese," which means something like "shut up," if I'm not mistaken. That was like right in the moment when he was standing like over her, above her, like, and having his finger. So the children were they also had to witness their mom getting slammed to the ground.
And then she had to go to the hospital. You went with her to the hospital. That was a part of that second clip where she was crying and saying that she didn't expect to get beaten in the United States when that was something that was a regular occurrence in Ecuador, her home country.
That's right. So photographers and court observers were taking Monica outside of the Federal Plaza right away, and we've been calling like a priest from a local church who was then rushing to us. And he was taking Monica first to Congressman Dan Goldman, who then was watching the videos, did a comment on that too. And then afterwards to the hospital where Monica got her checkups. Like she was apparently seeing a neurologist. And she was, I guess, like released like 2 hours or 2.5 hours later. And yeah, we were there all the time.
Till, I got to ask you, you were there for 2 weeks in a row every day, right? Looking and being a part of the energy, as you spoke of, in the hallways at this immigration courthouse. So these are people that are voluntarily appearing in court. They are doing a process that, for all intents and purposes, is the, quote, legal process, right? To be able to either get asylum or temporary protected status or citizenship or some way or means to be there. Explain to our viewers what it felt like. I know you were there in a professional capacity, but talk about what it felt like just as a human, knowing that these people are going, knowing that there's the very real possibility they could just be taken into custody, whisked away, and never see their family again, but that they were there.
Yeah. Well, there's no way you can watch that and just be left stone cold. That's not a possibility. I mean, as you say, like the people are going there, they're playing by the rules. They will go there to have their regular check-ins or their asylum case hearings. Sometimes it would be something about a marriage license or something like that. And they are expecting due process and basic humanitarian protection too. Like this is what you would expect when you are going to a court. And to then walk in and to have to cross like sometimes 10, 15, sometimes we saw 20 masked agents lining up like on this hallway, like you have to cross and walk through them into the courtroom. That alone, I've seen many people being so distressed and so afraid. So some of the arrests I've seen, I looked into the people's faces and I could see how shocked and paralyzed they were. They were just not understanding what was going on to them, right? Like they felt like they're doing everything right. Some people, I guess even Monica, said they thought these people are there to protect them. They're there for their protection. For some, it turns out to be, the opposite, right?
And you're there, and you are there again in a professional capacity, but you're watching this. Was it even scary for you to kind of see this happening? Did you worry at all for yourself while you're in this? I mean, it gets pretty chaotic when they're taking people into custody.
Well, it's a delicate situation for sure. We have seen a colleague of us, like just a couple of days later, Turkish journalist who got shoved to the ground as well by an ICE agent. It was just a couple of days later for just trying to follow the agents into the elevator and doing making photographs, pictures, document what's going on. So for sure, I knew from the get-go that this is a delicate situation, and I would have to be pretty careful about like where I'm standing, what I'm doing, how I behave, how I talk. And so for me, I guess I was not going there with a camera. So that was just me. It was me with I was there just like trying to observe the scene. Sometimes the phone, of course, like this video, I just flipped out the phone and shot the video for sure if something like that would happen. But other than that, I was just standing there and trying to observe. I was like, there were times where I would go like inside of the courtrooms as well, which is something journalists with cameras are not allowed to. But that was the reason I was not taking like any cameras with me. So I knew I need to be careful because you could easily get caught up in the chaos. And sometimes you see those arrests and those detains, they are like quite, they're swift, but there's like sometimes people would stand in the way and they would get shoved away. And then it certainly can create like a dangerous situation. So I was like for sure making sure to not be in their way.
Your thoughts about hearing that ICE agent was initially there was a declaration that wasn't behavior. ICE made a declaration publicly. This is not behavior we condone. It doesn't meet with our professional standards. And then about 3 days later, CBS News reporting that ICE officer was placed back on duty after preliminary review of that incident.
Yeah, that made the rounds quite quickly with us, like the people who were going there quite frequently. We were trying to verify that on the ground with security personnel who were then telling us, apparently he's reinstated, apparently he's on another floor or another side. So we could not be completely sure. Like, I mean, Katie, in the beginning, we were not sure, like, what does it mean, like, be relieved of duties? Like, we tried to follow up with DHS, like, what exactly does that mean? Like, can you specify, is he fired? Is he taking off the streets? What does it mean? DHS did not get back to us for a comment, and they did not until now. Like, I've been just this morning hearing that he was seen in Federal Plaza by a photographer. But again, I cannot verify it. I'm trying to get a comment on that from DHS, but they were not responding on that. But yeah, it's the agent. He was, let's say, it's not the first time the agent raised eyebrows with court observers and other photographers. So some of them were not really surprised that something like that would happen. So yeah. Apparently he's back, but we cannot know for sure.
There was an article in ProPublica on July 31st that talked about nearly 50 documented instances of immigration agents breaking vehicle windows. And we've seen it on social media, right? And on the news till we've seen the violent entries into people's cars to be able to drag people out. This is happening on American streets. And it's interesting because the article spoke that officers who are breaking the glass, they're not actually being disciplined. They're getting promoted. Like they're getting rewarded for this type of behavior, like Victor exhibited with Monica and other things that were, quote, eyebrow raising, as you've noticed. You mentioned a few minutes ago, too, Till, part of what you did here coming from Berlin, you're an investigative journalist. You were alarmed by what you've been hearing and seeing have been the tactics by immigration here in the United States. There have been comparisons, Till, to Germany, but Nazi Germany, right? The idea of having stormtroopers and people in the streets, taking people into custody, rounding them up, this type of kind of crackdown on opposition. Do you think those are fair comparisons, Till?
Well, I think it's always hard to draw like direct comparisons between what happened back then in Germany and what happens right now in the US. But I think it's sure to compare dynamics and functionalities, behaviors of the authorities. I think this is a fair game to do. And for sure, I do understand why for many people, masked federal agents on the street arrest, like in unmarked vehicles, coming and arresting people or in this courthouse could lead to very unpleasant associations. So I understand that.
Till, I also wanted to ask you as just a person, I think it kind of doesn't get discussed often. I call myself an independent journalist because I'm not affiliated with a media company, right? It's hard for us to be covering this day in and day out. It's hard for us to witness it. You literally kind of went through that firsthand experience with Monica in that hallway. Talk about the toll it takes on journalists. It's a lot to hear it and to feel it and to be a part of that energy and to have to listen to the stories and to watch the tears and to see these families ripped apart.
You got to make sure you look after yourself as a journalist too. It's very important, right? I mean, it's a job where you would constantly, especially as an investigative reporter, you would be constantly confronted with like individual stories or sometimes systemic abuse that is power abuse, which is just very hard to bear. And so you got to take care of yourself. It's a very important thing. That meaning, for me, that means just try to eat well, right? Like try to sleep well, try to get your workout in, try to, so those are important things. So I guess like those are the basics. And whenever you need someone to talk to, it's also quite important to do that. Fortunately, in the newsrooms, I've been working with like ProPublica in the US, but also Correctiv here in Germany. All of the coworkers will always have an open ear and would always like take their time to go and talk to you for a check-in. So yeah, it's not easy, of course, but I guess it's our job to look very closely and to document it, and but yeah, at the same time, take care of ourselves.
Before you and I part ways, I wanted to ask you kind of quickly about an article that you bylined with others for Correctiv, which is also an amazing investigative newsroom. I was really impressed with the articles I was able to read. You did an article in January of this year about Russian meddling in Germany's elections. And what I loved about reading it, Till, was I was stunned. You and your colleagues uncovered a Russian influence operation, a disinformation campaign that established 100 fake websites ahead of Germany's general election earlier this year. The purpose, to influence the election campaign through the spreading of disinformation with the help of AI, and then having right-wing influencers kind of spreading it. The article is fantastic, and I'm going to tag it so people can read it, but it was fake news stories published on websites that were spread by pro-Russian influencers in Germany. And one of the kind of like main interfering entities was Storm 1516, which targeted our US presidential elections in 2024 with the goal apparently of getting Donald Trump into office. People like J.D. Vance and Marjorie Taylor Greene have spread Storm 1516's narratives. I mean, Till, it's terrifying and yet remarkably almost like validating to hear your investigative journalism to prove that we've known that Russians have been meddling in these elections, but I didn't know they even were meddling in German elections.
Yeah, we've been following this for quite some time. There are many hints and clues that like Russia not only tries to meddle with like elections, but also tries to like provoke Europe and Germany in particularly for a long time. I'm sure you've been hearing like the stories about the drones above Germany. I mean, like above Poland. We have seen those news. So this is something that has been going on for quite some time now. So yeah, it's quite real. We're following it for quite some time now.
Well, Till Eckert, look, I laud you for your hard work. I'm grateful that this fellowship program allowed you to spend time here in the United States. I hope that there was something good that you got out of it. We got, obviously, your incredible work as an investigative journalist. Corrective is lucky to have you working there. And again, we're also grateful for ProPublica having you be a part of their newsroom when you were here in the United States. Thanks, Till Eckert, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Katie.
Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.